Hello, and welcome to Soul Aligned CEO Podcast, the show that shares the stories of entrepreneurs from all around the world who have started businesses and they are doing it soul aligned. I'm your host, Jenny Morey, and on today's episode, I am so excited that we have artist Katie Johnson, and she is the CEO of Katie's Design Studio. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I thought we could share a little bit first about the different types of offerings that you have available for sale.
Absolutely. I'm an abstract artist. I draw geometric shapes, mandalas, pattern art, kind of whatever's floating my boat at the moment. So I have a lot of art stuff that's for sale. I typically have that on my Instagram stories, or people can reach out. Another thing that I have that really excites me that's on the smaller scale side is journal notebooks and a coloring book for
Oh,
those
okay.
that need to zen out and chill, which I'm really
Nice.
excited about. Yeah.
Those are really great. I love the coloring books. So we'll talk more specifically about all of your different pieces of art and things that you have for sale and how to get in contact with you.
Great.
So, just to give a quick summary of the show, so we're going to talk about Katie's journey and how she started out in the corporate interior design space and how she shifted to doing her own art business. We're going to go over more about the different types of art that Katie creates and also just have a discussion about the importance of art and, what art can even mean in a non-artist's life. And then, because astrology is such an important aspect of the podcast, and Katie is also very interested in astrology, we are going to dive into some astrological influences and some of Katie's own astrology on her chart. And so I'm really excited to talk about that. And as always, anything that we're talking about in the episode is in no way medical advice. I always just like to mention that and just make sure that you always speak with your own healthcare provider. All right. So let's get started by just talking a little bit about your background and your journey. So you started in interior design in the corporate world, you had said?
I did. I pursued a second undergrad degree later in life, and it was interior design because I knew I wanted to do something creative. I didn't completely know what that was or what it looked like. And so I went back to school, I think that was 2007, 2008,
Okay.
and pursued interior design. And when I graduated, it was December of 2009 is when I graduated. And that was after the housing crash. So interior design really wasn't popping job
Oh,
wise.
gosh, yes. So did you end up working more in like a corporate space?
Yes. I ended out in the technology sector, planning out cube designs, their real estate portfolios and building maintenance, all that. Not
Okay,
exactly creative.
I see. And
Yes.
so, but you have always had kind of a passion for art, right?
Yeah, I think it got buried for a while. Like a lot of people, something that you dabble with as a kid, and then just life takes you in a different direction. And then all of a sudden, something comes back, and you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot I liked that. I forgot.
Right.
Yeah.
So did I think you had mentioned your grandmother was
Well,
also,
my grandmother was an artist, and I think I probably got drawn back into it. Well, interior design we had to hand draw. That also kind of started sparking some memory for me. And when I had graduated interior design, I had figured out that my mom was in the early stages of Alzheimer's. She
mm,
wasn't fully diagnosed at the time, but I had lost my maternal grandfather to early onset Alzheimer's, so I knew what it was and knew that's kind of where we were headed. And being in the corporate world and super stressful, I needed a way to like unwind after work, even though like I've always worked out, it just wasn't enough. So I found that drawing helped slow
mm,
my brain down and just kind of process everything that was getting ready to, come
right.
down the pipe. Yeah.
So you really were using art kind of in your own personal life
Yeah. It
to
was my
help you
therapy. Yeah.
breathe and relax and all of that.
Yeah.
So then after that experience, how did you then kind of, or what changes were occurring in your life that you decided to shift out of that corporate space?
Yeah, my mom passed away. Like that, it was a
Okay.
long period. I think it was probably 2010 when I really started drawing, and she passed away in 2017.
Mm,
And I had known for a while, I was at the time, I was living in Austin, Texas, and I didn't want to be there anymore, but didn't really know what was next. And it's like once she passed away, yeah, I flipped the whole ship. Sold my place, packed all my stuff up, and just kind of did a little bit of traveling, bounced around, like moved a couple of times. Yeah, just started
exploring like what
really
was
exploring.
right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's almost like somewhat of a spiritual like component
Yeah. There
to
definitely
that.
was. Yeah.
Yeah. So then how did you start feeling like you wanted to actually pursue art as a business?
It had been on my mind for a while. In the beginning, I had been drawing, I would take like a piece of paper, like a mixed media piece of paper. Those are like thicker in paper that's stronger, that can handle a lot of ink. And I would draw on one side and then write little notes to mail to people. So I kind of
Hmm.
started in the snail mail world, sort of stationary. And I
Right.
actually was in a like an art show, a craft show, and printed a whole bunch of prints and stationery. It was a whole lot of work, and I wasn't sure what was next. Like I didn't love the whole craft fair industry. If
Hmm.
anyone's ever done that before, it's a lot that you may get nothing on.
Right.
So that's where it all started.
Got
That's what I
it.
enjoyed the most. Yeah.
Okay. And so then you started to realize that this could be something that you could actually do like full time as a business and create.
Slowly but surely. Like I had some
Yeah.
side stuff on the side just because it's art's tricky. I mean, it's a very
Hmm.
cyclical kind of business. It took a while. It took some
Yeah.
moves. I had my real estate license in several states, so kind of had that on the side as well while I just drew and figured things out and trying to put my stuff on different products to sell it that way. Like Society
Hmm.
6 is a website that a lot of artists have their stuff on. They
Okay.
license their stuff too, that little knickknacks that are great gift items for people.
Right. Right. And so I think when we were talking before, you had mentioned something about a Peru
Yeah.
trip that you had gone on that was pretty influential.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, that was an ayahuasca journey that, yeah, not for everyone, but yeah, I did. I did go down that road.
And that helped kind of bring even more clarity.
Yeah, well, it showed me that I hadn't let my mom go. Like I was still
Okay.
grieving, still like really deep in the process, and so it kind of broke that up and brought that to my attention that I had no idea was
Mm.
still there and lingering. And that was a year after she had passed, so it was kind of a bizarre experience.
Hmm. Yeah, I have not ever done it, but I have known people that have
Yeah,
have gone through it, and it's definitely kind of a once in a lifetime
yeah,
kind of thing. And so you made the shift out of kind of the corporate interior design and then kind of gradually, built up different types of art that you were creating and putting it up on different websites
yes.
to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit more just about the type of art that you create. And so you had said the style, how did you refer to it?
So it's a mix between like abstract and then like geometric patterns, geometric
Okay.
shapes. Like I'm obsessed with lines and triangles and putting them all together and figuring out like the space of a piece of paper and how to make it flow and come together. So
Right.
that's just fun to me.
I see. And so then how did you decide to like expand from the stationary into other modalities? I don't know how you would call it.
Yeah, modalities. That is a good question. I think it was the pandemic, honestly.
Okay.
The pandemic, I actually hired another artist to teach me mandala work
Mm,
because it was just drawing me in. And I took off from there. Like I started doing mandalas. It was the same time that NFTs were taking off, the digital
mm,
world, Web3 space. And so I moved a lot of stuff into that realm, which was great, a lot of fun in a really fast paced environment that got things sold quickly. And then I didn't have to physically ship things. It's a little
Right, or
easier
go
on my
sit at
world.
a craft, yeah, at a craft booth somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So you said, so what is a mandala? So that's like
So
a,
it's how do I even explain that? I'm trying to think if I have one. It's a circle with
uh-huh.
shapes, all pattern inside. It's just yeah, it's really meditative. Like my coloring book is a mandala coloring book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so then you expanded into like stationery, you said gift wraps.
Oh, well, I'm working on that now. I'm now
Okay.
moving into surface pattern. I'm actually taking a class on that at the moment.
Oh, okay. So let's talk a little bit about that. So then let's talk about what is that surface
So
pattern.
surface pattern design, that is any object you see that has some type of a design on it, that's a surface pattern design, like a water bottle, a coffee mug, gift wrap, wallpaper, fabric. That's all surface pattern design.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so is there a special technique that goes into like creating that that's different from like the
Well, yeah, you have to create.
stationery?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like I don't even really touch stationery anymore. I mean, I haven't touched
Oh, okay.
stationery in probably 10 years. Although, like my Society 6, they print onto stationery for me. You have to create what is referred to as repeat, repeating patterns.
Okay.
Yeah, and you do that
Okay.
digitally. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I guess I never thought about that. Like when you're looking at wallpaper, like somebody actually made that,
Yeah. Yes.
like that
Yeah.
design. So,
Yeah.
well,
Exactly.
that's really incredible. So you said you're in a class right now. That's
Yeah. Working on art licensing, learning all that. Like, who are the art licensors? Like, how do you pitch people or companies? Yeah. Learning that whole avenue.
got it. So
Yeah.
you're really kind of expanding your current
Yeah.
business and offerings and
Yes.
growing into a different
Yes.
space right now.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
always changing. Like it's all
Right.
just you get a ping or you get an interest and kind of follow and see where it goes.
Right. And I would assume it's also based just kind of on trends too, and like what's occurring like in the marketplace or like stylistically, what?
Like yes and no. It's like
Yeah.
anything. It's like an algorithm. You
Got it.
might follow it, and you may just stick to what you know as well, and find your
Okay.
people that like that.
Got it. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about just art and kind of what the purpose of art is from your perspective.
art is something to slow you down, bring you back to you, the present moment. It's kind of a Zen thing for me, and what I hope to share with people when they look at my art. I mean, that's my goal. My art, it's always moving, but I also want you to like move with yourself, like to
Hmm.
breathe. Just take a pause and just enjoy it. Forget about all the to-do list, the next thing, everything that's, hanging in the balance waiting on you. Just a pause and breathe.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's really kind of that's a perfect description of kind of what art should be used for, and and obviously appreciating art and the effort that goes into it, but then thinking about how you can like be with it and have that experience.
Yeah.
And so with your coloring books that you do, how do you kind of see people, working with your coloring books or using them in their day to day?
If
Is
they,
that a
take a minute,
meditative? Yeah.
yeah, take a minute and color a page. I
Yeah.
recommend colored pencils to use it. Yeah, and just zone out. However you want to color it, it's yours.
Yeah. That's really fantastic because it is kind of an intro into like almost a meditative state. Like you
Absolutely.
mentioned, like
Yeah.
you can kind of really focus on what you're coloring in,
Yeah. It
it
forces you to be there with it.
right, right. Yeah. No, I think they're very relaxing. And I had told you that I did a lot of like adult paint by numbers when I was kind of dealing with different hardships and experiences in my life, and they were always so relaxing. So I'm excited to try the coloring books and get some coloring pencils.
Yay.
That sounds
Can't wait to hear.
fantastic. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. So let's shift gears a little bit and we'll come back to how to get in contact with you and all of the business stuff. But let's talk a little bit about astrology.
Yes.
Um, because, Astrology is a really interesting and influential part of my life. And so I always like to find out from the guests, how did you even start getting interested in astrology? Like what piqued your interest? And then we'll talk a little bit more about how it influences you.
I have always been interested in horoscopes. I loved
Okay.
horoscopes. I also wanted to predict the future all the time, like, especially in my
Oh,
teenage years. It's like
okay.
when you're like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to handle any of this. I would always read my horoscopes, which we all know horoscopes are
Right.
a crock of poo. So my sun and rising are Cancer, which
Okay.
never really spoke to me because it's very, they're always talking about for Cancer, like family and nurturing and like the kitchen and cooking. And I'm like, I couldn't be any further from that.
Okay.
And then one day I learned that my moon sign was Virgo, and Virgo is more like systems and efficient
Mm-hmm.
and into fitness and health. And I was like, that speaks to me. Like that makes
Right.
sense. But funny, just to backtrack a little, I started tracking the moon actually when I was in corporate America because I found
Okay.
that when a full moon was coming, everyone was bonkers. Like everyone was just like freaking out over nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like all my steady people in the corporate world that I dealt with were like, just, I was like, I don't, what's going on here? So I started tracking the moon then,
Okay.
just so I could prepare, so I could look like a couple days in advance and go, okay, I need to just chill. Like I'm going to get some
Right.
angry emails. It's got nothing to do with me.
Oh,
Like
that's
it'll
really
be
interesting.
a lot of crazy. And I talked to my doctor friends. I have a friend that's an ER doctor. She's like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, nightmare. Full moons are terrible for her. Like she's like, yeah, it
Right.
brings it all
Yeah.
in.
That's really interesting. And so even before you got into astrology, you were kind
Yeah,
of keeping track of the full moons. It's a full moon today, actually,
I know.
when we are recording this. And
I
so
know. And
that's really interesting. So do you still follow kind of the moon cycle?
like I do not as
Yeah.
closely, but I can
Okay.
always feel it. Like I check in on it. Like if I can't sleep, like I'm having a couple
Mm,
nights where I'm a sleeper. Like I can fall asleep in about 5 minutes of hitting the pillow. And if I'm having a couple nights where I'm like, why am I not falling asleep? I'll check and be like, oh, either a new moon or full moon's coming. It's like,
got
okay, all
it.
right.
And so what about like retrogrades and stuff like that?
I used to follow that a lot
Okay.
closer. I don't as much now. I
Okay.
mean, I'll notice sometimes there'll be some that I'm like, wow, you could stop now.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's interesting the energy. As I've gotten more interested in learning more, it just like keeps like peeling back layers of an onion almost when you
Yes.
are exploring everything. So you said you're Cancer, Sun, and Rising, and then Virgo, Moon, which I
Mm-hmm.
can see that for you. Like that does make a lot of sense. And then you also mentioned to me that you have a lot of fire
I
in
do.
your chart. And
Yes.
so can we talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah. Fire energy. I've got the fire and it's in the cardinal signs. So I have a lot of cardinal signs, which the cardinal signs are the starters of each new season. So it's like get
Mm,
up and go, and they can start a whole lot of things. Finishing, not the strong point. And I
okay.
have learned that a lot on me. Um, but yeah, I always wondered because I've always had high energy. Like
Hmm.
I had some health issues dealing with my thyroid and iron, and my doctor was like, "Well, I mean, you should be like lethargic," and listed all these like low energy things. I'm like, yeah,
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't have any of that. And it was
Interesting.
learning my birth chart helped me understand kind of how I function as a human.
Right. It does. It really does. And so, what signs are you that are fire? So
I'm
you're
Aries and
Aries,
Leo. I've got a lot
Leo.
of
Got
Aries,
it.
like my Mars and Chiron. Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay. And so you can feel that, like that balance in your
Yeah,
chart. That's really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me to like understand, the different aspects of someone's birth chart. So I appreciate you sharing about that. So let's talk a little bit about just, you've started this business and you've kind of gone into this new space of the surface pattern designs and you're learning more about that. How has that felt for you from just like a business perspective to kind of branch into that new space?
I have learned as an adult, I love learning new things. I love trying new things, especially in the art world,
Hmm.
and just kind of rolling with it, like what interests me. Because I go through phases. Like I'm mainly geometric shapes and lines and that kind of thing, order with that. But then I'll branch out and all of a sudden be drawing florals and a lot of like more girly colors and things that aren't my norm, and I
Right.
just roll with it. I just kind of allow myself to explore and play with things just because I don't know what my brain's doing. I don't know why.
Right.
And now learning all the softwares because I'm there's kind of this push right now coming towards us for the art world that is what they're calling digital art, which is like
Okay.
PHY. It's like a mix of physical and digital art because there's this
Oh,
big, strong movement at the moment. I see as an artist, the public may not see it, where a lot of people like hand draw, and then load it up to their computer and start playing with the digital world, like
mm,
Photoshop, AI, Procreate, all these apps we have now to play and manipulate work, which is a lot of fun because then you can take it in all kinds of directions.
right. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So like it's like the landscape that you have to work with has evolved over the
It's
last
huge.
decade.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's huge. And I find it's funny, like I love to hand draw. I love I like taking notes and that physical thing. However, when I go into digital and like if I screw something up or I don't like a color, I just immediately backtrack and it's gone. Like, you're not
Right.
like, oh, I got to start all over.
Start
It's just
over.
like
Right.
undo. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. And so it's like the ability to kind of the amount of time it takes
Yes,
to
it's
create
shorter.
something is shorter.
Yeah.
And so, oh, that's really interesting. And so you mentioned AI
Yeah.
also, like that aspect kind of coming into the art
Oh yeah. Like
world.
right now there's the software I play with is Mid Journey, and like creating from that. At first, I was very anti. I was like, we need to draw, hand draw. But it's somewhere to play. Like I've played where I'll give it a prompt. You have to write
Mhm.
out the text, like of what you want it to create. And I wanted like this swirly lollipop. Like, I don't know if you ever got one of those at the fair, like these
Right.
huge, ridiculous swirl pops. And I wanted to put it in a national park, like as a sculpture, like something that you'll never like. This will never happen in life. So I like to
Right.
kind of use AI for those type things to build sculpt. Like I'm never going to do sculpture art. That's physically that takes up a lot of space that I don't have or want to commit
Right.
to. And so I like to use AI for things like that, just to push my own boundaries and see what I can create.
Got it. It's almost like a playground
Yeah,
in a way.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And then
that's real.
it plays with your brain to especially if like you're stuck. Like sometimes like a writer, you just hit a block where you're like, I'm not creating anything. To go and play an AI and just sort of break break things up.
Right. Yeah. No, that's really that sounds really fun,
It
actually.
is, yeah,
So, um, so then starting the business, or I should say not starting, but like kind of shifting and expanding your business is something that feels comfortable and natural to you then. Like you seem like you're always kind of up for the adventure of what's next.
yeah. I mean, I figure try everything and
Right.
see if you like it or not, rather than judge a new thing, come and be like, ah, no, never. And it's like, well, just play with it. I mean, you may not like it, and that's totally fine, but at least you know.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good approach to take. It's almost like, you're going to take the shot and see how it goes and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
adjust as you need to.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so when you're thinking about maybe new people that might be starting out in art or wanting to shift and actually go from art as a hobby to art as a business, do you have any like tips or suggestions that you would give for that type of situation?
Share your work. Make sure you're sharing your work everywhere. Even if
Yeah.
it's not good, well, share whatever you want, but be on your social medias, sharing with your friends, getting feedback, see what people think. Not like don't take it to heart, but just if it's resonating with people.
Got it.
Yeah.
Just get out there
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
just and
and
get used to
start.
showing it and like getting the comment, like I'd say building a thicker skin, but yeah, just sharing your work, which I think was the beauty of interior design school. Like we had to present projects all the time, and you usually
Mhm.
got just slaughtered every time. But I'd been up all night working on projects. Like I took it, I just didn't care. I was like, fine,
Right.
whatever. I want to go home and go to bed. So I think it prepared me for being an artist and showing work and just not being concerned if anyone likes it or not. If I post things and
Hmm.
it's crickets. Okay.
Right. I mean, because it's coming from your heart and,
Yeah.
what you feel really connected to. And you can't
It's
control what other people feel
bingo. In fact,
connected to.
and there's a book I'll recommend. Rick Rubin wrote a book. I think it's called On Creative,
Okay.
or On Creating, something like that. It is phenomenal. Like, if you're looking at art and want to go that realm, read his book. Like, it's
Okay.
amazing.
Okay. Awesome. We'll put that in the notes too so people can reference that. Well, it's so interesting to talk to you. I'm in no way an artist, but I have found art to be, so relaxing. I love to go to museums. I love to, kind of do my own little paint by numbers, like I mentioned. And, so the types of art that you have available right now that people could purchase,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk a little bit about where they could find that and how they can get in contact with you best.
Absolutely. Feel free to DM me on Instagram. I'm always on
Okay.
there. Also, I think my website will be listed in the
Yep.
show notes. That'll have every place that I have art for sale, whether that's a physical piece, a digital piece, or like on Society 6 that has my stuff licensed on any type of item you
Got it.
want to get.
So is Society 6, is that like a big, like a conglomerate selling
In fact, it's a,
site?
like, as we get ready to roll into the holidays, as scary as that sounds, it's a great site for little gifty items. A lot of independent artists, that's where we'll put our work for,
Mm,
if you want stickers, a t-shirt, a travel mug, water bottle, pillows, like they have everything on there, which is kind of cool to see your art on
hmm.
all those places,
Oh,
on
that's
those
really
types of
cool.
items. Yeah.
And so from your website, so the
Yeah.
hug.xyz/artist/Katie_Johnson, and we'll
Yeah.
put that in
That's
the
a lot.
show notes. But so on that website, people can find direct
Yeah.
links to your different shops.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
And
a
then
plethora
your
right now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. When you had showed me it the other day, it was really interesting to see like all the different types of things because everything, like you said, water bottles, phone
Yeah.
cases,
Yeah. Everything.
everything, and so it is great gift, ideas.
Yeah.
And so that's really great to share. And so your Instagram is Katie's Design Studio,
Correct.
right? And so you said that people can message you
Absolutely.
directly on there. So that's perfect. And so I do like to just close it out with one last question, and so you've obviously been working in art and kind of in this passion of yours for a while now. And, like I said, you feel very comfortable about shifting gears and kind of taking on new adventures. But I do always like to ask people, how does it really feel to be doing the work that is, soul aligned and that is something that you feel called to?
It's a mix. Like, this year's been a rough year. It's been a rough sales year, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So it's never dull,
Yeah.
ever. It's emotional, like it's highs, it's lows. It's basically you're a surfer
Oh, that's a good
on dry land.
analogy.
I mean, that's what it feels like. But it's always, if you're having a down moment, kind of pay attention to what's going on around you. Like, any
Hmm.
social media you see, or any clues tell, like, giving you direction. I say that because I get Noah Kagan's email letter every week. He's an app developer. He's a big technology guy, really smart. But he sent an email, right? I was just having a rough day, and it was on the statistics of Beyonce, Drake, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, like how many songs they've produced, and each of them had produced like over 200 songs, and
Mm,
only like 13 hits or 20 hits that have made them huge. And he's like, they
right.
produce 70% that no one likes. Like, no one is
Ah,
interested in 70% of their work. And the small 30% is what has
right.
sent them to stardom. And it was like, okay, keep going. Got it. All right.
Right. Yeah. Keep going. I mean, and it must feel very different doing this type of work versus when you were doing like the interior design cube layout type thing.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's more rewarding for sure.
Oh, I'm sure. And then when you see people that, have purchased something and, come back to you and maybe give you that, feedback or how it changed, an experience in their life, I can imagine that that's rewarding.
Very. I love it when they send me pictures of my art on their walls. Yeah. It's like, wow,
Oh,
thank you.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I did want to share with everybody that you so graciously have offered a free mandala to print and color. And so that's kind of like that coloring
Yeah.
page, where
Yeah,
someone can
absolutely.
take it and take the coloring pencil. And so if they sign up for your email letter, and they can do that on your Instagram, again,
Hmm.
that's Katie's Design Studio, and then they'll get that PDF and they can print that and kind of do their own meditative coloring experience. And
Yes.
then they can tag you
Oh, I'd
that
love
they
it.
colored
Yes.
it in.
Yeah, it'd be great. I love to see that.
That would
Yeah,
be really
I
fun.
like to see what people like, what they create and what they enjoy, what colors they like to put together.
Right. Because I think, what you said earlier about art, being that opportunity to like let you pause
Yes. Hmm.
and breathe,
Hmm.
is something that's so important and so needed, in our everyday modern world. And a lot of people haven't done any art, since maybe like middle school or something.
Absolutely. They've thought about it. They're
Right.
busy. Yeah. I mean, as our world speeds up, we need to slow down that much more.
Right. And so I think that's beautiful that some of the things that you're creating are giving people the opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, it has been a pleasure talking with you and getting to know more about your art and the things that inspire you and everything that you have available to share with the world. I hope that everybody takes a look at Katie's website and all the great offerings that she has. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed our conversation.
And I hope that I'll have you on again. And if anything new comes up, we can kind of follow your journey and see how you're doing.
Oh,
So
that'd be
thank you.
great.
Yeah, thank you again for being here. And thank you everyone for listening. I hope that you found this episode informative, got some insight, and maybe were even inspired. And until next time, I wish you much joy, peace, and love as you pursue being more soul aligned.